welcome to Issues and Insights. I am Melanie Parker. With me today I have Tommy Crane, Deputy Fire Marshal, City of Radcliffe. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming in on this cold day.
It's pretty chilly. It's going to be the weather in Kentucky. It's up and down.
It is what it is. That's right. You get up early and hope you don't have to defrost that windshield, but you never know.
You never know.
You
That's
never
right.
know. So we were chatting just a little bit before we started about what a fire marshal does as opposed to / a fireman. And so you train for both,
yes,
right?
Yes, on our department, like we were talking, pretty much everybody is a firefighter.
Right.
At the end of the day, everybody. But the fire marshal side of it is more of enforcement, and we focus on prevention and things like that. So we're that side of it, we're out in the community a lot more.
Right.
Now, that being said, there are several of our officers who have a lot of the training and stuff, so they can do a lot of it too. It all kind of ties together, is what I try to tell the newer firefighters, is that a lot of times people come in and they think just firefighting, just put the fire out, or just go to car accidents or medical runs, but understanding all the facets of the job.
Prevention is big.
Right. It makes it, and it's important to have a knowledge of how fire responds, and that way you're better able to educate the public, so that you understand. Or when you go out and tell a business owner he needs to do this or she needs to do that, then it's a little easier to I guess for them to swallow, if you're saying, hey, you got to fix this because this is what will happen.
Don't be intimidated by your visit.
Right.
I've been guilty of that. I had started at a new job, and I'd only been there a week or so. I was there by myself, and the fire marshal comes in and gigged them on quite a few things, and I took the brunt of that.
Yeah.
And so then, for a long time after the fire marshal came in, when he'd pull up, I'd be like, "The fire marshal's here,"
I've gotten that before, yes. So.
Right. Yeah, but it is coming from a good place.
Right.
Yeah.
Our goal is to, at the end of the day, that everybody's safe. The public is safe, that we're safe. And that's something that I try to instill in people too, is that it's for our safety too. When we make these responses, we're trying to do these inspections and stuff to make it safe. If we have to be there, for us as well. But definitely it is, because fire, costs a lot of money at the end of the day. A lot of people, you work, with money, and that's people see dollar signs a lot of times, and fire all the way around affects us monetarily. It does affect lives.
Yes.
It interrupts things. Your normal flow. So it is very important that we help people to understand where we're coming from. That we're not trying to be mean. We're not trying to be the Grinch at Christmas.
Right.
So I did walk in a business one time to do their inspection, and the Grinch song was playing. It was right around Christmas.
Was that deliberate?
No, but they started laughing when I walked in, and so. But
timing is everything.
Right.
And let me correct myself. I said fireman because that's what I grew up with, but it's firefighter.
Firefighter.
Let me correct myself.
We do have several ladies that are in the fire service.
Bless them.
And that's been something, and it's been a really the fire service is something where more ladies are getting involved in, but for a long time it was kind of a male-dominated industry.
Right.
So, but it is more and more where everybody is able to and
save lives.
Right.
And that's exactly, as a deputy fire marshal, you're doing that too. When you go in, I mean, I know you go into burning buildings. You're trained to do that as well, but you are being preventative. And that's what it's about, especially this time of year during the holidays, and it's cold. Let's talk a little bit about what really dominates your time this time of year.
Well, the big thing is we remind people, when they're cooking, the holiday seasons, everybody's, doing a lot of cooking, family get-togethers, friends, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And we just want to remind people just, some safe things, and this is year-round, actually. I mean, we just know that there are more cooking fires around the holiday season, more heating fires.
More.
Right.
More stove stuff, less microwave stuff.
Right. You got to make that special dish, the one that everybody expects, But the things we remind people is, when you're in the kitchen anything you've got on the stove top, if you've got anything on the stove, make sure that you're in the kitchen area, that you stay close. Things can boil over and pretty quick. If you have something that's, frying, it doesn't take long for it to reach that temperature where it could actually ignite. So we remind people, always stay there, stay alert. When you're cooking, anything on the front burners, try to keep the handles turned inward so that they don't get bumped or knocked off.
Yeah, we've all done that, haven't we?
Yep. So, and it, like I said, it doesn't take long. We remind people, try to keep things, what we call combustibles, like paper towels, dishcloths, stuff like that, away from, even recipe books and stuff, away from the edge of the stove. Keep some distance there. A real simple thing is if you are frying something or cooking something, just keep like a cookie sheet or the top that actually fits that pot or that pan. Keep it close, and so if there is a fire, if there is a flare up, you can just put that, cover it, and turn the heat off, and you've taken care of the fire.
Gotcha.
Don't throw flour or water on it, and don't try to pick it up and carry it out, outside, because you risk spilling it and making the fire bigger, or even spilling it on yourself and burning yourself. You can use a fire extinguisher, but we recommend just the simplest thing and the easiest, best way to do it is cover that up and turn the heat off, because a fire extinguisher is going to make a big mess. And so it is a useful tool, but simple steps like that, just kind of being prepared. The big thing, like I said, is being in there with it, so you can monitor and stop before. If you have something in the oven or the microwave that flares up, just keep the oven or the microwave closed, and just turn the power off. You're doing the same effect. You're smothering it. You're killing the heat source, so that's helpful. With children, children love to help, and especially this time of year, everybody's busy and everything. We recommend keeping them, the younger ones away from the stove, the oven area. And even pets, we tell them 3-foot rule. We've got a big chocolate lab, and she, things are cooking. She loves being there, trying to find out what's going on.
Sure.
So
inquisitive. Right.
Very, very much so. But just, try to keep pets and children away. For children, if you can keep them busy, helping out, maybe setting the table, maybe helping mix up whatever the recipe
away
is.
from the heat source.
Right.
Yeah.
And, whatever's age appropriate, obviously if they're 4 years old, you probably don't want them cutting potatoes.
Sure.
But,
right.
But just, have them help out, but that way it keeps them occupied.
Or have
and
an easy bake oven in the dining room or something. Yeah.
Right, something that keeps them, where they're still being able to help and be part of it, but they're safer in that distance. If you've got to get together and you're using things like crock pots and warmers, we always recommend trying to plug those things right into the outlet instead of extension cords. If you are using a cord, make sure. Are
those like the devil of your trade extension cords?
They can be.
Yeah.
They are useful. We
are.
use them when we're doing things, but we remind people they're just for temporary, just for short term.
Yeah.
And then also, so don't make it part of the standard, but also, make sure it's the right length. If you get one too long and it's all bunched up, electricity builds up heat. So if you've got a big pile of cord, it's still building up that heat. Make sure the cord's in good shape. No gashes or
no duct tape.
Right, no duct tape, electrical tape. I tell people that's not fixing it.
I bet you see that often.
I do. It's so we remind people that's not going to fix it. Make sure that if it requires the 3-prong, the grounded, that it does. You're using that type of cord. Make sure the cord is heavy duty enough that it's going to be able to handle that load of that cooking device.
Sure.
For that short time. Make sure that if it's supposed to have that ground prong, that it's not broken off. A lot of times I find them where they're broken off because what people like to do is they'll get those little 2-wire cords that have just the polarized outlet, and they'll plug in, they'll bend the prong back so they can get it to fit. So that's pretty common, but that 3rd prong is on there for a reason. So we try to remind people that is a safety feature there.
Sure.
So Try not to bypass that.
I'm sure it drives you nuts when you see that.
It can a little bit. So,
yeah.
but it is there for a purpose.
Yes.
So if you use the appropriate device and everything, so those are just things around the kitchen. With Thanksgiving, a lot of people like to fry their turkeys, and even around Christmas time, that's still something. Anything you're using like that, make sure you follow the directions. If you are frying a turkey for Christmas, your holiday celebrations, make sure that the turkey fryer, you don't, number one, you want to make sure the turkey is completely thawed.
Gotcha.
So that there's no mixing of that cold with that hot oil.
Were there any turkey runs this Thanksgiving?
Not this year.
Oh,
no.
knock on wood.
Yeah. We've had some cooking fires this year,
Right.
but nothing with a turkey fryer. So just make sure we tell people, just like grills, try to keep them about 10, 15 feet away from the house, off the deck.
Yeah, fry those turkeys outside.
Right, outside, not in the garage, not under the overhang, but
Right.
away from the house.
Yeah.
Make sure that you don't overfill it, because when you put that turkey in there, of course, it's going to fill it up, so
Right.
you don't want the oil spilling over. So those are just some things. Keep kids away from those as well, because that's a dangerous thing there.
Yeah.
So those are things to remember just in the kitchen area.
Yeah,
So.
I think that people get caught up in the moment and what they're doing in the end game of that meal or that turkey and
Right.
and all of that, and they forget about safety.
We call it tunnel vision, and we get it as well in our line of work. You're focused on that one thing, and you kind of don't really look around or stop to think about the other things.
Right.
You got so much time. You got to get that recipe done, and you got other stuff to do, and so it is easy to get into that mindset. You get busy and you forget those kinds of things.
But a fire is going to set you way back on that schedule, isn't it?
Absolutely. So just like being in a hurry, trying to beat the traffic light, and then you have an accident, and then now everybody's waiting. So
Yeah, that's true. And now you're really going to be late.
right, you're absolutely yes.
Yes. Okay. General safety. Oh my gosh. Yeah, as a marketing director, I set up venues for workshops and seminars and things like that for the boss. And it's interesting, because when I'll say, what will the room hold? And 90% of the time they'll say, the fire marshal says 49.
Right.
So, people respect what you say. And whether they're coming from a safety point of view, or I don't want to tick off the deputy fire marshal and have to pay a fine, whatever, I don't know what the ramifications for that are, people listen.
Well, hopefully, things like that are when you have overcrowding, then if something does happen, do you have enough exits? Do you have enough, so those are things that we do look for when, in businesses and areas where, like community centers and stuff, where you're going to have a large crowd, that potential there. Just things that we remind people, at home and stuff is, when, we do decorating and stuff, and most people already have their houses decorated, but just, make sure the cords are in good shape, make sure the cords are not run, across the floor where people can step on them or trip on them. Don't cover them up with a rug, because, that, like we talked about, electricity does build up heat.
Right. So
the rug is keeping it insulated and not letting it, plus the rug doesn't really protect the cord anyway. People are still going to step on it and damage it. So try to run it, where it's not going to be tripped over. Make sure your decorations and things, aren't in the way of the doors and windows where people need to, get out. So those are things to remember. If you're using, if you have a live tree, make sure that you're still watering it and keeping it, fresh. Water it daily. You shouldn't be able to brush the branches and get needles in your hands.
Gotcha.
So you want to make sure of that. Make sure that you keep things like, if you have live garland or live wreaths, make sure that are fresh. They're not live anymore, but they're still fresh.
Right.
So make sure that you keep them away from your flame sources, fireplaces and stuff like that, candles or anything. When decorating, we talk to people about making sure your candles are on a nice flat surface, up away from where kids and pets can't knock them down.
Right.
Make sure that you keep them, at least a foot away from everything. And the other thing is, make sure when you're burning that candle that it doesn't get any closer to a 1/4 inch from the bottom. because that wax actually helps absorb that heat.
Okay.
So you want to make sure that you have, you want to have that little bit of, you don't want to burn it all the way to the bottom.
Okay.
So
I did not know that. That's good to know.
It is actually kind of a safety precaution, just
Sure.
that it helps, like I said, it helps absorb that heat, so that glass isn't absorbing all that heat. So, those are things we remind people. Check all your cords and stuff when you're plugging things in. And unplug the Christmas lights at night. Talking about general safety, space heaters. We were talking about the weather.
Yeah. They terrify me.
Well, they're good devices, and they're actually very safe.
Are they?
There's a lot of safety features built in, and they're tested. The problem is that they're not always used appropriately.
Gotcha.
So,
you hear the horror stories, which makes me terrified of them.
they're actually very safe devices. Most of them
only as smart as their user.
If you use them correctly,
Sure.
We see a lot of people where they want to put them under their desk. The ladies like to, they'll put them under the desk, and of course the problem is you have a purse or you have a backpack or something that is up under there too, and so.
So would you gig somebody on that?
We would. Usually we just remind them, go ahead and move it away, and stay, put it, where there's nothing, 3 feet is what we tell people, whether at home or in the office, 3 feet, and so that, we tell people space heaters need space. I mean, so.
That makes perfect sense.
That was one of those catchy phrases I had a few years ago.
I like it. Yeah.
Plug them right into the wall. Don't plug them into a power strip, and don't plug them into extension cords because they pull a lot of power. So make sure that you are plugging them right into the wall. The cords aren't damaged. The best ones have tip over protection, so if they get bumped, they'll shut off as soon as they tip over. They all have some kind of overheat protection. They'll get to a certain. But the problem is the item that it may be bumped up against might not have take as much heat. Like papers or something like that. So you want to make sure that's why you give them their space. But the tip over protection is the best, so that either way, if it gets knocked over, close to a pile of papers, it shuts off. It's done. So those are things to remember. Make sure. With heating is a big thing. And make sure that if you've your furnace, try to get it serviced at least once a year. Make sure it's clean, whether it's electric or natural gas
filters
or propane.
And all of that.
Filters so that they run efficiently.
Yes.
That they're cleaned and checked, especially if it is natural gas or propane, because you want to make sure it's burning clean. Use your don't store a bunch of stuff around your furnace. Keep that area clean. And make sure that you want to make sure that you've got a carbon monoxide detector if you do have a natural gas or propane. Have that in your home.
Is that required?
In newer construction, it is required now. Yes, if you have a gas furnace,
it's smart.
It is.
Yeah,
it's a
I just
good
didn't
investment.
know if it was required.
You can get them pretty reasonable now. They're a lot cheaper than they used to be.
Yeah, you can go to Walmart and get one.
Right. Very good, because you can't smell or taste or see carbon monoxide.
Right.
So it's called the silent killer.
That's scary.
So and it's you don't. There's different signs and symptoms. Everything from feeling like you have you're getting the flu, all the way to you don't wake up.
Right.
So there's different how much you're exposed to and stuff, but it doesn't. It's not one of those things that you know about until you start getting the symptoms. So it's important. Make sure those carbon monoxide detectors are working, and make sure that your smoke alarms are working. We tell people that. With heating also, if you're using a wood stove or a chimney, make sure that you've had everything's clean and maintained. It's best if you can get a professional chimney sweep to clean.
Do we still have those?
So we do. They're actually it's just still
Really? I didn't know that was a thing.
Yes, yeah. So
Good.
no more. They're not like Dick Van Dyke. They don't run across the rooftops and sing. But
no top hat.
No.
No.
Not that I know of. There may be some singing ones out there.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. That would be cool. That would be a good side gig.
But definitely, because what they'll do is they'll not only clean, but they they should be checking the liners and make sure everything's sealed up good. You know, so that there's that heat is not leaking out. You know, especially an older home you've been using that fireplace for a while or something.
Economically, that would help too, I'm sure.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, because the creosote builds up, so you want to make sure if you are using a wood stove or a fireplace, you know, when you empty those ashes out, you know, take them, you know, put them in a metal container, you know, about 10 feet away from the house. So if they are still hot, you know, allow them to cool, if you know, and try to keep them away. And you know, even if you're going to dispose of them, you know, make sure you douse them and make sure they're, you know, they're out completely.
Right.
A lot of people, you know, don't think about that down inside there that it could still be, you know, pretty hot inside that pile of ashes. So, you know, wood stoves, check for any cracks or anything like that, you know, around the metal and stuff and around the seals. You know, and in wood stoves and fireplaces, use only seasoned wood. You don't want to use the green wood because that's where you get the creosote buildup really bad because the way it burns. So, and kerosene heaters, if you choose to use a kerosene heater, you know, people still use those a lot. So, you know, don't make sure you use only, you know, kerosene. Don't use any alternative fuels. Right. And use it in a well ventilated room. If you're in a room where you have to use it, I know it sounds kind of counterproductive, but you know, crack the window a little bit, you know, so that there's a decent air exchange, ventilation. So, so that's something to remember. You know, and one other thing is we always remind people, you know, with the holidays, with people, you know, you may stay at somebody else's house, or you may have relatives come to visit at your house. Remind them, always make sure that they know your fire escape plan too. You know, that they know, you know, what's the plan if there's a fire in the middle of the night, what are we going to do? So, you know, remind them of the 2 ways out.
Where are you going to meet after rendezvous so that they know you're out. And
Right.
Yeah. I remember all of that when the cool firefighters would come to the school, and I'd go home and tell my mom and dad, we need a plan, and where are we going to meet? And it's impactful.
It is. You know, that's probably our best thing is to be able to get to the schools and talk to the kids, because then they go home and they bug their parents to do all that stuff, you know.
They do.
So because it seems like as we get older, we get a little more, that hasn't happened. You know, I haven't had anything happen for 20 years. I'm good, you know.
Like a car accident. I've been driving for 40 years. I've never had a wreck. That doesn't mean you won't tomorrow.
Right. So the preventative is always helpful. And like I said, you want to make sure that everybody knows that plan, and that you know, go around and make sure and year round, make sure that, you know, your smoke alarms are working, the carbon monoxide detectors are working. You know, if it's ones that take batteries, that you have to change out their fresh batteries.
Right.
And,
when do they suggest to do that? Is it during the time change?
During the time change. Yeah. However, with some of the newer ones, they actually, with lithium batteries, they'll last longer. So they'll last for 10 years.
Wow.
You know, so the ones that we install with the Red Cross is they actually have a 10-year lithium battery. So at the end of the 10 years, the smoke alarm is supposed to be replaced anyway. So the battery is supposed to last that long. So so that way you take care of both of them.
Good.
So
because nobody likes that chirping sound.
No, and
it's
that's
wonderful. It's effective.
It is, but a lot of times people will be like, oh, well, they'll take the battery out and then they forget to put one back in, or they. Or you know, they get to where, you know, some people just get to where they ignore it, you know. And so,
I can imagine. It drives me insane.
But that, you know, that is something that we have tried to make sure of. Of course, with your newer homes, they're going to be electric and they're going to be interconnected. You know, just because of the how rapid a fire will spread through a house now is something that we really try to remind people. You know, that it is. You know, it's not like it was, you know, 30, 40 years ago where it took 15, 20 minutes for the fire to get to a dangerous level. You know, now you have 3 to 5 minutes.
Right.
So,
is it because it runs
less.
through the walls?
Well, actually, the construction is overall better, but it's a lot of the stuff that we have in our homes now. You know, we have plastic casings on our computers and on everything. You know, there's so much plastic in a home. There's, you know, your cushions are, you know, they're made from, you know, things that are based with petroleum. So, you know, so I mean, you know, so you have, you know, your foam cushions, you know, your fabrics are different synthetic fabrics.
Didn't even think about that.
your furniture. You have a lot of it is like when you put a desk together or bookshelves together, it's press board. And that stuff, it just burns a lot faster.
Gotcha.
and builds up that heat where it's going to move faster. And then the other thing is people don't realize the smoke is what really the danger for because
it'll ruin everything
well,
too and
right,
kill you.
Right, it'll kill you.
Yeah,
because that's
there's
where your all those gases are in the smoke. A lot of people won't even be close to where the actual flames are, the fire. But the smoke is carrying the heat with it and the chemicals, and that's where your danger is. So that's where you want your smoke alarms to be working and to get to let you know that there is a fire. So but those are just some things that we want to remind people, and especially around the holidays, but year round. Make sure those that you're safe year round. A lot of that stuff carries over. Like I said, with the cooking and stuff, that's stuff that.
It's common sense stuff, but it's stuff we need constant reminders about.
We all get complacent, and we do it in our line of work. That's why we try to train and make sure that because you'll get into a habit, and and it's not always a good habit. So you do something and nothing bad happens once, then you do it again, and
it
you get that
a habit.
right. So
absolutely.
But those are just things we want to cover, remind people. Like I said, heating safety, especially with we're getting ready to enter the colder months, where people will use different heating methods.
Yeah. What do you think about the what do you call them? The heating blankets.
That's a good one that we've covered before, but we didn't cover this time. Is electric blankets are good. The important thing is remember that the cord doesn't get pinched, and there again, plug it into the wall so that it's because they
no
do
extension cords.
Right, because they do use. they are using electric to heat that blanket.
Yeah. They're so snuggly.
Well, the other thing is to make sure that they go on top.
Gotcha.
So we talked about how electricity builds up heat. That's how it provides the warmth.
Okay.
But is that you put it on top. You don't put it underneath a quilt or something. Don't do that.
Okay.
Make sure that the electric blanket is always the last thing on top.
I did not know that. That's good information.
So because you're basically you're not going to let it air and get some cool off enough. So you're going to build up too much heat.
Gotcha.
So make sure the cord doesn't get pinched. It's not going to be in an area where it'll get pinched and damaged. So
what about, real quick, we're almost out of time, the outdoor lights? Are those like the bane of your existence, or are they usually pretty safe?
Overall, they're pretty safe. The big thing we remind people is anything outdoor, make sure it's rated for outdoor. So make sure that it says on the package. Home Depot, I was in there this year, and I was actually getting some Christmas lights because we had a set that went out, and that's actually the worst thing is you get like a set that goes out and it's like half your lights are on, half of them are off, and you're like, great,
Right.
So fortunately, it's not like the old days where you had to track down the bulb.
That was the bane of everyone's existence. Yeah.
So, but with LEDs, it's a lot safer.
Good.
You can generally plug in more strands. Still, you want to make sure the cords are in good shape.
Right.
If it's the older style incandescent, most of them will say three strands and that's it.
Gotcha.
Make sure that your extension cords are rated for outdoor as well. Just because it's an extension cord doesn't mean it can go everywhere.
Right. You want one of those big orange extension cords,
well,
right? The
you can get some lighter ones that are made for outdoor,
Gotcha.
but you do want to make sure they are rated. And Home Depot actually had where theirs were labeled, if it was outdoor or indoor type cords. So that was really good. They labeled the packaging, and actually I think if I remember correctly, the area they were in, they were kind of set upside so that you would see it was indoor cords or outdoor cords.
Good. Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Well, thank you.
And everything that you do, and all of your brothers and sisters, all of the firefighters. We couldn't do it without them.
I know we have a good group at Radcliffe. I know E-Town's got a good crew. I know a lot of them. So, there's a lot of good people out there always standing by, and whether they're career or volunteer. So it's we work. We've always worked well with each other, so that's a good thing. So,
and genuinely appreciate you all. Thank you so much. Thank you all for tuning in. Be safe. If you have any questions, this is the guy you call. Thank you. See you next time.